According to Sarah Elliott in an article posted on October 5th, 2009, cupcakes were sometimes called number cakes because they are easy to remember by the measurements of the ingredients it took to create them: 1 cup of butter, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of flour, 4 eggs, 1 cup of milk, and 1 spoonful of baking soda. This cupcake represents the culture because when baking, you make it your own because you are creating something that you want, like choosing the flavor, the color, the decorations that make it unique. By learning more about the cupcake, you will have a greater understanding of the baking culture. First, I will talk about the cupcake and how it represents the baking culture. Then, I will talk about how I identify myself with the cupcake and the culture. When making a cupcake, you have to have all the ingredients. Before mixing all the ingredients, you have to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. When the batter is ready, so you can just put it in the oven and bake. Once you have all the ingredients ready to mix, you mix one at a time. When mixing, you have to make sure that all the ingredients have been mixed evenly. So when mixing, you have to make sure that the batter is not bumpy or bubbly. The batter has to be kind of watery and not thick. If the batter is too thick, it will take longer to bake and it may overbake. There are things in this culture that made me value, like being creative, staying motivated, being strong, staying positive, and staying focused. This culture first showed me that I can be creative with how I decorate and take my time in fixing the pastry. Second, staying motivated and thinking that I can bake anything I put my mind to. Third, staying positive that the cupcake is going to come out good and not bad. Staying focused because of how I see myself while baking. Staying busy and focusing on what I am doing. Lastly, staying strong is something big while baking to me because I tend to make a lot of mistakes, and I remember that mistakes are made to be fixed. Also, I have just talked about the cupcake and in my feelings and now I will talk about how I consider myself part of the baking culture. I love to bake. I love to bake cupcakes, cookies, and cakes and decorate. So then it makes me part of the baking culture. I did not know how to bake until about 3 years ago when I took a baking class in school, and then I learned that I loved to bake and experiment while baking. At first, I did not know what to do. The first thing that I learned how to bake was chocolate chip cookies. I made a lot of mistakes while baking, but then I learned that the basics. I learned the basics, like mixing the dry ingredients first and stuff like that. I learned that baking takes patience and a lot of practice. When I saw how I can do what I can do while baking, I started to see myself doing things on my own, and I loved it. I always wanted to make cupcakes, but they aren't something big. I also learned that while baking, I don't worry about things, and I always stay focused on what I am doing. It helped me get over a lot of things like my depression and some of my anxiety. When I bake, I see myself as creative. I learned that I can show people who I am and not be scared to be judged. Being creative with my baking and my own fashion has showed me that I am free and to do whatever I want. When I bake to motivate myself in doing better. I have been such a scared person for the past years that I motivate myself to do things that I really want. The value of being positive is to think that I can do whatever I want to and there is no right or wrong. Being focused on what I am doing helps me not think about other things. Focusing on me and my happiness is the most important. Also, staying strong is a big thing in my life because I have to be strong for me and only me. I cannot let myself fall like I did when I went through depression, and I have to be strong and move forward. Now that I have talked, now you have a better understanding of the cupcake and the culture that it represents. First, I talked about how the cupcake became a cupcake and then explained how I learned the baking culture and what the cupcake is to me.